want to talk about gated subdivisions. Now, I have done deliveries as a side job, and one of the challenges that I have encountered is punching the code in a gate, which, you know, the question is, does it really work? Does it prevent from unwanted guests from coming in? And so you can see here, they have a gate right here. They're still doing this trend, a trend that's kind of started, I think, since the 80s. And the result of that is, why are people buying gated subdivisions? Do you think they're really necessary?
I think gated communities are a false sense of security. That's my personal opinion.
Why do they keep building them then? Well, what do you think is that really about? I mean, is it just a marketing scheme?
I think that unless somebody's fully educated, they don't necessarily understand how a gated community works and how a gate works, and how it's a gate in most subdivisions are not geared to go one car at a time, which is the biggest issue. So I think it's education.
Right, and so this is a good point, but you know, the result of this is we have decided to separate ourselves, live in cul-de-sacs, live in subdivisions, and this is despite the fact that these are not luxury high-end homes. These are basically just townhomes for about 1,500 square foot. And meanwhile, you can go to many of the older major cities across the country. The streets are more interconnected. You're close to many amenities. And what have we done to ourselves? We've decided to separate ourselves. We've decided to think it's cool and trendy to live kind of disaggregated, segregated, or whatever you want to call it. And what do you make of that? Do you think we should start putting ordinances? Do you think we should start informing people that this setup of cities has got to change?
I never really thought of it from that perspective, and it doesn't bother me, especially obviously when I'm showing clients homes. I have many clients that say they want to be in a gated community, or they say they don't care if they're in a gated community. Very few say they don't want to be in a gated community, but I'm going to say many clients from out of state, other parts of the country, they don't understand how a gate works here, at least, and then I'll usually end up showing them, when I'm showing them homes, that it's not. I think people do look for it from a security perspective. I do believe that security is number one to them. I think Las Vegas is not, as a whole, being that I'm a native, I don't think it's a super neighborly environment, especially as it's gotten bigger and bigger. But I truly believe that builders put in gates for that security feel that I believe is a false sense of security.
Right. Hello, everyone. We're here at a grand opening event from Lennar Homes, the Hudson and Green Valley. So these are townhomes from the 300s. I think they're strongly overpriced. I mean, the same builder can build new homes across the country for hundreds. I don't think there's really anything special or valuable about the land here so much that it would qualify for that. And we wanted to talk to a lot of people about gated subdivisions. Why do people buy them? And do they really, really work? And if not, why do the builders keep putting them? Here, the police just showed up.
I need you to leave the property.
Okay, so just trying to spread the truth. Thank you.
You can videotape me as you leave out here if you want. That's fine.
Okay.
I've already given you the trespass warning.
Okay. So this is what you do, folks. You spread the truth, and then they do this kind of stuff. So you're informing people about the truth, and you're waking people up about their marketing schemes, and this is exactly what's going on. And they were gonna... Hello, everyone. We are here with
Jerry Martucci.
All right, and what brought you here today?
I'm actually a realtor. I'm a real estate broker.
Nice, and we wanted to talk about the issue of gated subdivisions. We've noticed that about like 50% of neighborhoods in Clark County have gated subdivisions, much higher than the national average. Why do people get them, and do you think they really work?
You know, I think
especially the ones without a guard.
Yeah, I think that there's a sense of security behind a gate. There's a sense of exclusivity. Do they work? Depends on what you're meaning. What works and what doesn't. If it makes people feel more comfortable and more secure in their homes and in their environment, in their neighborhood, then yes, it does work, in my opinion.
Feel. Okay. Hello. How's it going?
Good.
Yes, we'd like to ask you some questions. So what brought you here today?
I'm a real estate agent, and I wanted to see what made a condo $325,000.
Well, I do think that is incredibly overpriced. $325,000. Why do you think that is the case? Because I was looking at similar homes from similar builders for 100,000s in other metropolitan areas. And here in Southern Nevada, we have a lot of available land.
We have a lot of available land, but most of our land is owned by the government. So the government decides when they want to auction off the land. So they control when and where we can develop.
Right, and I think that's the reason why people have to pay more, why rents have been going up, because it's very difficult to build. But obviously we're building less homes than we are now than we were in the peak of the last housing boom. So I think a lot of it is the builders that are not building enough too. I think that's another factor. I mean, the BLM says you can nominate the land, but then it has to go through an auction process, and that's a pretty good point. So we want to talk about Parker. Nice to meet you. We see that this neighborhood is gated. So why do you prefer, or do you actually prefer, to live in a gated subdivision?
Well, I think if gated communities are done right and
with a guard.
Yeah, well, that could be too, but also just provide security, whether it's a sense of safety that other people need, or whether it actually sets up to whether the gates are working properly and whatever. But for the most part, as people feel safer when they have gate when other people just drive in without a code. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know if it's the solution.
Well, it's giving people a feel, but there's no evidence that it actually works, because when people enter a gate, when they have the code or the remote control, the other person can follow in, and then the result is we have all these gated subdivisions across the valley in many parts of the world that are like that, and then there's really no evidence that it actually reduces the crime element, and it doesn't really work, so or makes it more secure. So my
question would be to that is how like from like the data is it just similar, or is it like where do you where is that from, like the government, or like what are your resources,
Well, it's just common sense. I mean,
You made a claim that it doesn't work, so I'm just trying to understand. You just think it's the same regardless, or there's not even a little boost of increase of security?
No, not really, because people can really just enter in, and even if there is some kind of a nice impact or maybe a tiny bit of effect, I guess the benefits strongly underperforms the cost. So that's one of the issues we absolutely, yes. So that is one of the things. So we just wanted to say, right, so it's a false sense. So but we pay for it, our commute times increase, and one of the problems is that a lot of people like myself, we don't want to live in an area where basically we don't really know our neighbors. This is one of the problems. It's like nowadays it's become kind of an ice barrier where it talking to strangers. Like,
close your garage from the car. You drive up and you close it from your button, not even, it's closing before you even get out of your car.
Right.
That's kind of, I feel that our,
and people don't really know their neighbors.
No.
They don't walk across the street, get errands done.
Not like they used to.
And this is one of the reasons why I probably don't want to really buy a home around here, because it's like, honestly, having a sense of community, having the neighborhood barbecue, having neighbors there for you is very important.
Well, when you say this area, do you mean the city, the Henderson, Las Vegas, Clark County? Because I'm going to say of everywhere you can live, I think that this area probably has the best sense of community, especially when you get a little bit further in Green Valley Ranch, which is a master plan community. There's so many different activities done all year long for families. And if it wasn't that master plan, it might be an Inspirata, for example, another master plan. So I think when you're within a master plan, I think the master plan the purpose is to have a sense of community. So I think that when you're in a master plan and you want the sense of community, I think it's there for you. I think when you don't care or don't want whatever, you can buy a home just off a street, and yes, there'll be, I think, a lack of community.
But then again, it's like, if if it doesn't really work, and then if it like increases commute times, it separates the neighborhood, it's not favorable for pedestrians and all that because we have cul-de-sacs, we have subdivisions. So it's pretty shocking that we have townhome developments that do this. Even almost all apartment complexes do that. And then for some reason, it's like this isn't just applying for luxury, larger lot gated subdivision. So perhaps many people argue it's probably better that we interconnect the streets and go back to old-fashioned planning where the townhomes used to face the major roads and things were interconnected and you could easily walk to amenities.
You know, I don't think that the gates have a big impact on ingress and egress. I mean, it's a convenience factor, but I think that everyone has their desire for their neighborhood, what it looks like and feels like, and I do think that separation by gates defines design, it defines amenities, and pockets of neighborhoods. So I don't see anything negative about it, personally.
Okay, but if the people are able to get in by following the next person,
That's kind of the honor system, just like most places. You know, if you've got a shopping mall or a club of sorts or anything that has any kind of separation factor, hotels, you know, there's going to be a certain amount of that happens.
community, yeah.
well, a lot of people like live in apartment complexes and people seem to be very isolated, but when you go to some master plans, you do have a good point. It is certainly there is some activity, but I think that we have lost overall as a society our neighbors from the last 40 years. I mean, the last 40 years, we certainly got along our neighbors a lot more. But another thing is, like, how would you specifically, stop and control this trend of gated subdivisions unless if there's a guard? Because those are the ones when it's really necessary.
Right. There's a big difference with a guard, and when there's a guard, obviously you're going to pay to have the guard, and and I think it's a fair sense of security. So when you really want that security, then I'm going to recommend that you live in a guard-gated community. As far as gated, it doesn't affect me personally, so I don't think of it from the perspective of getting rid of it or trying to pass something locally to get rid of it. I've lived in gated communities and I've lived in non-gated communities. So I've done both. I have lived in a non-gated community for 15 years now, and I feel just as safe as I did in my gated community.
Right.
So it doesn't really make a difference to me, and it doesn't affect me when I'm working. If my client has to live in a gated community, then I'm probably going to show them just gated homes. But I have explained to them the false sense of security. So I don't think of it from the terms of I think the problem today is just the generation. It's the millennial generation, and it's just the people that are buying homes today are a lot of them, if not more, millennials, and they are busy. They go to work, they do their thing at home, they're on the phone, they're on their computers, they're on their games. They're not really into socializing. My children, being grown-up millennials, as children, they didn't ride their bikes and ride over their friend's house and play outside till the lights came on. They went home to their individual homes and played against each other on Xbox. So that's what, now they're the ones buying the houses. So
The gated subdivisions.
gated or non-gated, they're just our more typical our higher buyers.
But we have to know if the gated subdivisions has actually reduced crime. So if it has or has not, I mean, and then of course it's supposed to prevent cars from coming in, and even though, like, let's say if some cars can't go in, people can technically walk inside the gates, underneath the gates, and there's no alert system that warns people about it. So what do you think about that?
Well, I don't think it's as much of a measurement of crime, and I'm certainly no expert on that. But in my own opinion, I think that the consumer is looking for a certain feel of a neighborhood, and if having a gated community, that separation from the next subdivision or streets makes them feel more comfortable and creates a neighborhood design that they like, that's what it's about. It's about desire, not necessarily I don't think there's any guarantee of any crime or non-crime in any specific community.
So they're selling these homes for the mid 300s, I would assume. There are many parts of America that still sell brand new homes that are similar sizes of the 100s. Why do you think that homes here specifically in the valley are this priced, even though we have lots of available land? What do you think is causing it?
You know, I think that that's an economic factor that's got so many components to it, and we're also one of the lowest price per square foot states as far as real estate on the West Coast. So I don't think that we're exorbitant as far as cost. I'm licensed in multiple states, including the Hawaiian Islands, and for example, $287,000 is our average price point here.
I heard millennials are starting to move away from the tract homes, the McMansions. They're moving away from all that, and they just don't seem to have the similar taste as their parents have. And I think we're going to have some problems in the coming times ahead when they probably don't want to buy the homes that their parents did. So, but anyway, my question is, you think it's the BLM that's causing the prices of land to go up, mainly, or some of it? I think
Sometimes it can be. Sometimes what happens is we're short on land. They release some land, and then there's an auction, and it's so.
They had one a couple of days ago.
Right. So it's supply and demand. So the higher the bid is, who is awarded the land, now they've got to make up for it in their sales price. So it's, before our prices fell, the land was so expensive. That's why some of the communities failed temporarily while we went through our crisis, and they had to pick back up a few years ago because no one could afford their land, the developed land, because everybody was having their issues, and they bought the land for so much they had to now go and sell. They had to parcel it out and sell it for more than they could.
Yeah, I heard reports that they're going to start giving more power to the states and counties, that they're trying to move their headquarters to perhaps in the western side of the country and basically dismantle the agency, because I think it's absurd that we have a federal government agency, and then part of the reason why we're paying more for our housing is because of that. But anyway, I really think it's overpriced. I think they can be selling it for low 200s.
What's funny is they will sell out. They will sell out.
I don't know. I mean, we've seen the housing sales has been slipping from the last year or two, but they will sell out, but not as fast as they used to.
And it may not be as fast, but I think a typical millennial today doesn't want to mow their lawn. They don't want to worry about taking care of their roof. They don't want to take care of their land. So this is like close your door and go do your thing. And if you want to go out of town, you want to hop over to California, you want to fly to Hawaii, whatever, you don't have to worry about anything because you have nothing to take care of. And so I think this is going to be very, it's going to relate to a lot of people that don't want those types of homes. And because it's in one of the most expensive areas of the city, I think that they'll probably get away with their pricing, and they will sell them.
That's a very good point. Would you like to disclose your name and the group you work
Sure. I'm Lisa Cobb, and I'm with Signature Real Estate.
Thank you so much. Thank you for being here. We're just trying to wake people about a trend, and we think a lot of trends. And it's not clothing or cars. Construction and planning is permanent. That's the problem. So it impacts communities and people for decades. And we have to wake people up and make sure that they make better decisions. So thank you so much. Great pleasure. Great pleasure. Bye-bye.
And he sat our 3- and 4-year-olds in his lap while reading LGBT-approved children's book to them at the Paseo Verde Library. And on September 7th and October 10th, there's also going to be similar shows by this drag queen to our little ones at the Green Valley Library again on the 7th, and at the James Gibson Library. Some questions. Do we really want our entertainers of this type around our babies? Do we really want our kids to feel at home in the presence of over-sexualized adults? Is this really the appropriate use of our public library funds? Is this really, or the buildings as well, is this really the appropriate use of our taxpayer dollars? Since I don't have very much time allowed to me, I just would like to refer you to Arthur at massresistance.org arthur@massresistance.org, telephone number 781-890-6001, where you'll have more information about what's going on. And I would like to also ask this body to exercise whatever influence you have on our public library directors here to stop this. We don't need this. You see what's going on in our country? I think you do a lot by keeping our little children minds clean and straight, doing good things. And God bless you.
Zabriskie 89011, and yes, I'm here for the same reasons to express my opposition on this drag queen story hour. I wasn't aware that you had absolutely no influence on this decision. Can you direct us who we could speak to then, who would have direct influence on this decision? Who is the board? Who funds the libraries? There's no city.
That's a great question. I'm sorry to interrupt. I was going to ask the same question. Who can tell us who's the entity that is running this? I know it's a library.
Yeah, there's a library board.
District. Is that for the entire valley?
We can get you that information, but we don't, again, we don't have anything to do with that.
I'm
So,
trying to define it. I think it's a good question. Who is it?
You know, I thought you guys had, the money, you supported them, and that you funded them.
It is supported by tax dollars.
Right.
It's not supported by we don't fund the library. The money doesn't come through us, and we do not funnel it to them.
Well, it's kind of unfortunate because, addressing education,
Yes.
my question would be, the young ones that I saw, I went last Saturday, the 24th of August, I had to see this, I saw the little snippet on news, I'm like, what? And I know that Texas has had some problems, and some of the people that they had exposed to the children, their background check came back and they were registered pedophiles. So it's interesting who would even interest themselves who are that nuanced.
Well, there's always, whenever there's a question, you always follow the dollars. So why don't we ask?
Well, that's part of it. I think he is being paid for his
No,
services.
I meant relative to the who's governance.
Council, if I may,
Yes.
Jack Tar's Chief Financial Officer. So the Henderson, there's an entity known as the Henderson Library District that has a separate board and board of directors that receives a property tax overlay. In other words, they receive a property tax rate through, if you're located in the city of Henderson, you're paying your taxes there. They go directly to that entity. They're a completely separate taxing entity from the city of Henderson. So funds do not flow to Henderson in any way. We have no authority to provide with any dollars. The taxes that you pay on the property taxes flow directly to the Henderson Library District. You can go online and find information about the Henderson Library District and the board of directors directly on the website.
Okay.
Mayor,
Well,
we just looked at the information she'll provide her with the website and the information that she can.
we go online and get you that information.
well, because you're talking about preschool and you're talking about seeds being planted. So, and I believe one of the gentlemen were here last time, and the mayor was present, and she's went into this diversity talk. And I'd like to pull the veil back on that, but I guess my time's up.
89148 Cyrus Hojadi. I was at the counter protest at the Paseo Verde Library. I thought it was pretty inappropriate, and I do not like the long-term effect this has on children. Obviously, my family were very critical of homosexuality. They wanted to stir that stuff away from me when I was a child. I'm very glad that they did. And if you'd like to see the video of the protest, it's at Cyrus992. Another comment that I want to talk about is this idea of gated subdivisions. The fact is, I was at the grand opening at Lennar in Paseo Verde Parkway. They were opening new townhomes. And I was interviewing people why people prefer gated subdivisions. Do gated areas actually work if they don't have a guard? We have a very high rate of them across the valley. It's creating traffic delays, and more importantly, it's creating this snobbish behavior of separating people, of cul-de-sacs. What's the point of this? The old-fashioned cities with the brownstone townhomes, all the streets were interconnected. Now, as far as I know, Henderson Strong talks about connectivity and pedestrian life. So why aren't those townhomes in Paseo Verde Parkway, or excuse me, Green Valley, why aren't they facing the street? Why is there a very large step back? If you want to encourage pedestrian life, that's the first step you can do. And I think we should adopt an ordinance that would effectively ban all gated subdivisions unless that they have a guard, to be honest with you. And believe it or not, I happen to think that this idea of gated subdivisions, this fear and anxiety of other people, it shows you that something in our society is not working. We have anxiety of other people. This is part of societal decline. There's a lot of signs to show you that our society is experiencing a decline. You hear crazy stuff in the news, people are all fishy about one another. This is pretty frightening. But people don't really see that because they see society as the money is still flowing, which really it's all credit, believe it or not. That's what's really pumping our economy. So I happen to think that we should do a study to show that are these gated subdivisions working? We should base our ideas on facts, not feelings. And if they don't work, then I think we should put an ordinance banning the gated subdivision. I live in one, it increases my commute time. There's a street right next to my unit. I have to slip underneath the gate so an Uber ride can come and pick me up over there. It's absurd. And I'd like there to be a shop like 50 feet or 500 feet away so I can get necessities done, I can see people in my community. I don't like this isolated feel. It's got to change. Thank you so much.
Anyone else like